So if you're including stuff that's like a fence, but it is spaced out further than this, but it's hand sewn, it's a difference.
Oh, I kicked it up and down in a circle.
Whenever I think a ghost would attack someone, if it ever happened in their lifetime, it would be just like part of a torso. That's why I think Mortal Kombat is dead on when it has this character Kenshi push his inner being inside out, because it isn't his, it's just something that's in him. And I don't want to be like I'm decadent, like I can't drink from the water. It's just I want to know where the tap is from instead of drinking out of a water bottle. To get it wrong somewhere down the line and it not even look that bad until you actually engage in it. Like something being a trash can that isn't, would be just as easy as messing up an entire tap if you didn't know anything about plumbing and they were doing the same thing right down the road. Because for some odd reason, the fluoride on that specific day had a structure that welcomed in things instead of trying to eliminate them, because its anti-counterpart got confused. Being as decadent as I think I am, would not drink it just for that reason alone. But also it's because all it cares about is just one impact where it would push your body if it was aimed at you. And I wasn't just seeing things because there actually is foam. When you see something on its side and it's elevated. See, I saw a girl writing stuff on like the wall because she was drawing on the window, and then it from a distance would look like just stained glass window. Like if you went really far from it, look no different than some paint on metal, paint on glass. So from a distance, all that foam, it just looked like paint on sitting on top of something painted, like a painted board sitting on top of the fountain. Whereas then doing the wrong thing could have been seen if you have the right spy grid. Whereas I didn't know I was gonna walk out of an establishment with their property, but if it or a glass inside of a bar, I think hashtag glass in the bar would happen a lot more if or it would happen a lot less if you didn't know there was a specific range that you could tap into to make it slower and more articulate, so you could see things that are just laying around, such as this. The slowest version of something wouldn't mean that it's the right answer, but would be a hell of a tool if you could use it for understanding nature's entire hydration system. Whereas the foliage of leaves are so special, especially in Vermont when they're all together on side of elevated mountain ranges. And that's why I don't want to drink the water, because the last time I asked for one, it was filled up by a tap. And so I went outside and I dumped it, so now similarly I should go outside and dump this. That's probably not a good idea, because the runoff of that could end up in the water fountain because it has foam in it right across the road. And that would be the counterpart to its anti. I never saw the movie The Shape of Water. That's why I don't know if it was a scary movie or not. But what was the stream? The picture has a flower on it. What if that flower was near a stream? What if every time you reached your arm out, a fly came and landed on it, and then a mosquito bit you on your opposite leg? That happened to me, but the time was just a window between those two events, which would probably make it even worse, because the mosquito bite would have been its backwash, and it would have gone to the opposite end of the interior, which is one stream, that whatever a fly on the other end would have output would have absorbed and met it halfway because its counterpart was its anti. And then it's like an aimer calibration here for its targets. So I don't know why this wouldn't see it every single day. But it would be running past and could detect you, especially if you wanted it to blow up and there was a giant ghost dinosaur chasing you. Just done in the I'm just raising awareness because a shadow can grow just as easily as a light shining on the ground. You wouldn't even know, because that's just how a hot flash occurs if it's a spontaneous combustion. Well, if there's just spontaneous combustions happening everywhere, there'd be an entire army that could take you at any moment of ninjas. And that's why the Power Rangers are so important, because the putties appear out of nowhere and they're like 12 deep. One place that could have been taken into consideration was right behind me, was where someone came up to a vehicle and was in a negative connotation because another person in the vehicle was having a negative connotation, and they engaged in an altercation, that of which caused massive implications for something worse to happen. Luckily, nothing did, but unfortunately, so if something bad would occur, it means that it would be spontaneous and in a flash. If it was happening really fast, it could be no different than if the ground didn't have a shadow cast, but instead of the shadow cast turned into a giant light, like a spotlight was hit. Fraction of a second, and it takes an entire year for the trees to turn yellow. In Dorothy, all the trees are so sped up where their entire faces, you know, when people see Jesus in a pancake, Virgin Mary's face or something, either of them, that's conspiracy. But then when of these leaves, but more so if it were guided from tiny bumps that they had on them with like types of odd heinous thing where it would be boiling like a wart, but even worse because it's on one leaf, which is equal to a quarter of your body. But that's neither here nor there. I hate when people say either here nor there, because that's the same as like, you want me to erase it? I will, and then you can't because I said. I just walked and I stubbed my toe. Actually, I hit my toe down a curb into a puddle. Looks like coral on this side though. Sees the back end in a symmetric 180 degree to this every single day. Just I like to know things, because what if a fly was on each corner? So the minute you can't do something that you don't understand, you'll get charged for it, especially if someone else owns it. So if you don't own anything, then you can be charged with anything as well. That's what the opposite end is of an equivalence principle. But on a serious note, if you were going to see a dinosaur ghost on... So I've never been this crazy because I'm caught flat-footed off seeing more people than I ever had, and then 0 people more than I ever had. Like a storm and then Ghost Town Central. And as of right now, I'd never be doing this with my foot on top of this table, but it's raining, and it was about 1,000 people who was just walking over there. 10 minutes later after the last one, Ghost Town. And it wasn't just 1,000 people walking. It was 3 12s, an ambulance, 2 school buses, and a lot of trucks. My phone from Bluetooth, but I didn't know it was on top of it. No, for real, but in any point of time they can shut down. If someone stole a government worker's car, they would shut down every road if they wanted to, until they found one suspect if he was really dangerous. And so what would happen next is this event, because they would call it on the same day, they were going to shut the road down and just check everyone for no reason. And that's one mark in history where no one knew where all these people went for one. And they're off, and they're taking the dead end and the opens for advance, as the other ones don't even know how much long they've been waiting just to get ready to get taken out, because he would be the first one to make the marker. If there was a demon in the Slayer cartoon happening right now, he'd be the one calling them in from the get-go. And you know, Mom was checking to see if I dropped anything because I'm going where the airport. We're blocked off, no one was able to get through unless you parked at this one job, and it had a parking lot entirely filleder than I've ever saw, because they had one choice to park there or park somewhere down the street, and so everyone is just walking on the sidewalk trying to get to this corner of the road that's blocked off by 3 marks of the barricades.